forget that there are engines that drive this. When you get into a car, you plug the key in, you step on the throttle, find the keys plugged in. If you don't move the gear stick, you're always going to be there. You can throttle as hard as you want, step on it with your both feet, sit on it. The car is not moving. Because a condition has to belong. They want to see themselves involved in what is going on. They want to be part of the process. They want to own a share of what's happening. You may not give them stock options, but you can give them that's privilege of understanding why we are doing what we're doing. And I think that's like a good starting point to delivering that. Gets to bed at 7:30 or at 7 p.m. She's able to, most definitely, she's going to be up at 6 in the morning or at 4:30, as the case may be. What must exist? What must stop? Who must I constantly be? Then I have a few practical examples, exercises I have, noted down, which I feel like you can actually take a snapshot and see if that works for you. The first is my dominant goal. State it clearly. What specific outcomes must exist by the end of 2026? The second is essence, the why behind what you have decided. Strip away activities. What must I take away? Conditions that define success. The third is, what must I stop tolerating? What are the things you tolerate?
Wisdom of the age would say, if I manifest something, it's going to happen. And I suppose I just want to be a bit careful on the balance between, I could want to play rugby for Scotland, but the truth is I've never played rugby in my life, and I could believe all I want. I'm 46 years old, it's pretty much not going to happen. However, so it's just walking that balance between this nonsense of manifesting something, but equally people who don't believe are never going to get to it. So it's what, and I don't know if I have a question or a point, but it's that sort of balance between belief is super important. Teams without belief are always going to fail. And we see that all the time in sports context, right? Which we get Callum talk about it. But teams that don't believe, Scotland rugby, will never achieve. But equally, you have to then be at least somewhat realistic or somewhat. So it's just an interesting.
There should always be a balance between it. The balance is action and then the belief. You can believe all you want. If you don't take the right action, for me, I feel like that's you sabotaging yourself. You can take all the actions that you want to take. If you don't believe that the action will produce results, that's also self-sabotaging yourself.
Another word I noticed on your slides was, and I hadn't seen the slides beforehand, right? So, but you talked about the essence. That came up a couple of times. You said in terms of the goal, the essence of what you're trying to create or trying to achieve, the essence of the goal. Can you say a little bit more about this idea of the essence?
Okay. So a typical example for that would be, you have say like a board meeting that sits to set the goal for the year for an organization. The board discusses the essence of that goal, what they intend to achieve, why they intend to achieve that. But what we discover in most cases is the outlines that have built up from that meeting are just passed down as instruction to, say, other team members. So they are expected to work like robots to get to achieve a certain number for whatever reason. But they do not understand why from the meeting. So they struggle at some point because they are not as convinced as the board is. That's the picture of right? So what happens there is understanding the why behind what we are doing also adds to the energy we commit to what we do. When you tell a team member, be at the office team member, all his head is an instruction. But for the system that is trying to get to, they have designed that, the leadership has designed that system for a purpose, and they understand what they intend to achieve. But that communication is looped out of what is told to the last guy, on the floor. So this guy struggles. I have to be at work for 7:30 because they said I have to be at work at 7:30. A typical example is I work at Anamo Bamara Group, which is the back lift. We have receptionists that come up as early as 6 a.m. in the morning. To them, it's a struggle sometimes because I just have to wait till 6 a.m. to get to work. But the leadership understands that you have to be seated here to attend to guests as they come out. They understand the why, but that why, in some cases, are not communicated rightly to the team. So the whole conversation around essence is ensuring that there's a good communication of the whys behind what we are doing. Once that is well communicated, it sparks up an energy within the entire team, and of course creates an environment that's conditioned for success.
Right, thank you.
Hey, what are you doing? He said, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. And that sense of just involving people at whatever level in understanding the direction brings just a whole level of performance that you would never get in it.
Absolutely.
And that didn't cost anything, right? I'm sure it cost time and energy and influence and all that kind of stuff, but to your point, you didn't have to give it stock options, you just needed to let him understand why he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The more we can create that environment. And a lot of times leaders, for leaders, power is, or knowledge is power. And so we keep our little strategic stuff in our boardroom.
Yeah.
We don't let you understand because you're a minion and you don't.
Yeah.
And